Okay, so let's talk about curing onions and shallots, otherwise known as alliums. As you can see, we've harvested our alliums and I'm now laying them out to dry and begin the curing process. Now you can allow your onions to begin curing outside. However, we've noticed that placing them in a greenhouse or other covered area helps protect them from gathering moisture at night when the temperature drops. If you do lay them outside, it's also important to keep an eye on the daytime temperatures. If you start to get into the upper 80s or 90s, the bulbs will risk getting sun-scald. We like to lay all of our alliums in our garage because this will keep them at a more consistent temperature and eliminate the chance of collecting moisture overnight, as well as completely eliminate the chance for sun-scald. Now, it is important to make sure you give your alliums enough space so they can all be placed on the drying surface without the need to overlap or pile them. Good airflow in the space you choose is an important factor in allowing the bulbs to dry quicker, along with preventing post-harvest diseases. So if you have an area that is sheltered but has doors or windows that can be opened during the day, this will be beneficial to the drying process overall. Now, as I'm laying the onions and shallots on the floor, you'll notice how I make a row and then start the next row with the bulbs facing each other. I like to do this in order to keep the onion tops from laying over the bulbs and preventing proper airflow, or again, trying to prevent any post-harvest mold or disease issues. We like to keep the onions and shallots in this position for 10 to 14 days or until almost all of the tops have turned brown or have become limp and are in the process of turning brown or dying. Next, we set up a table outside and place a bin on top and then begin the process of stacking the onions and shallots on the table. I then take each bulb and begin by cutting the dried roots to within approximately 1/8 of an inch from the bottom of the bulb, or about as close as possible without actually clipping the bulb itself. I will also loosely handle the bulbs and lightly rub and remove any of the outermost dried skin along with any loose dirt. Now, if a piece of skin doesn't easily fall off at this point or is not easily removed by this light handling, then don't worry about doing anything further, as the bulbs will be cleaned again at a later date. Next, I like to cut the tops about 2 inches above the bulb, or at roughly the location where the tops naturally flop or bend above the bulb. This will give them enough space between the top of the bulb and cut line to allow them to continue drying and limit the chance of mold or moisture from occurring at the top of the bulb itself, as well as limit the chance for pathogens to travel down from the cut line. Once all of the roots and tops have been removed, I like to set the onions and shallots in the bins so that the tops are facing upwards, if possible, to allow for maximum airflow while they continue the drying process. We use stackable harvest bins, which have holes in the sides and leave space between the top and bottom of each bin, which will allow for proper ventilation. But regardless of what you're using to keep the onions in at this point, ventilation and airflow are key. Now, after another 7 to 10 days, check your bulbs and the tops should be dried to the point where you can cut them to within 1/2 to 1 inch of the bulb top. You can also remove any of the loose dried skin remaining on the bulb and place them in a bin with ventilation holes or an onion bag and place them in your long-term storage area. Ideally, you want to store them in an area with relatively steady temperature and humidity levels, like an unfinished basement or cellar or an insulated garage. Now, make sure to remove any damaged bulbs and use those first, as well as continue to check throughout the coming weeks for any signs of bulbs that are beginning to rot and remove those immediately. Well, that's all for now. Please remember to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And please have a wonderful day and keep on growing.